What's going on, everybody? It's time for Truth Will Set You Free, episode 123. I don't know how we made it this far without being kicked off. Everybody's drinking but me. I've got a pink protein shake. So apparently I'm the menstrual meat on this episode, even though, Matt, what the hell are you? Is that like, are you reacting to my...
You said protein shake. Come on, dude. I mean, but that's why you're probably buff and not fat like me. So there's that.
Oh, no. I'm fluffy. Don't worry. I am definitely fluffy. I love the person already saying I'm on cash time.
Do you have ground cockroach powder in there? Cricket powder?
Cricket powder?
All the rage.
Yeah, I got it from Bill Gates. Bill Gates poured it right into my beverage.
Morning cricket shake.
Cricket shake. Barb is looking at you like, what are you talking about? We got a good show. We've only got three main things to talk about. Casey's probably going to be running late. We're going to be talking about the thing that boggles my mind the most in this world. Can white people still somehow be blamed for the Tyre Nichols incident? What happened in Memphis? And I'll call it a tragedy. If anybody's watched the clips, it's a tragedy. And it's disgusting what happened. We're also going to talk about some of the rumors and whether or not they're rumors or they've been corroborated at this point. We're going to talk about the Project Veritas drop in terms of the Fizzy Fizz, the interesting timing that they came up with, if anybody had a chance to look at that, and all the hubbub about egg factories. And if we might have some time to take a couple more. Guys, do us a huge favor, hit the share button. Go ahead and put something in the comment box so we see you guys there. There it is. Everybody's there. The crew is all here. And we, of course, have a special guest, which means we are going to start with that introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, back from the recesses of whatever. I thought, I'm not going to lie, Matt, I thought you died. I thought you were gone. I thought,
Well, lawsuits have a funny way to take you off the air for a little bit. So here we are. The sabbatical's over and away we go. But no, I'll tell you, the good Lord takes you down lanes that you don't always think are the right ones until after you've been down them. And here we are, and I learned a lot of things. And we'll be bringing back the Voice of the Working Man podcast here very, very soon after I sold all my equipment to Anthony. So I'm running on backup power here in the studio.
Maybe he'll lease it back to you for a bargain.
No, I'll buy new. It'd be all right. I'll buy new stuff.
Matt, by the way, I finally accidentally dropped one of the whatever lights, and the bulb shattered. Very easy to find on. Do you know how hard that's to do? It's very hard to do.
I didn't do it in 3 years, so I know it's pretty hard.
I'm gifted. I'm a very gifted individual. All right, Barb, Dave, and by the way, for anybody who Matt was on the show, but you were on the show back when Cash was around, I think. But you were on a show with Cash, or was it right after?
I have been around and in and out and on several of your shows over the past 2 or 3 years. So I recognize that name. And I remember, I believe I was around the Cash days.
Yeah, the Cash days, pre him going to the DC Gulag, which, by the way, he's doing fantastic. For anybody wondering, I got to talk to him this last week. He's actually doing really, really good. Very happy. Getting close to the end. I don't know when anywhere from June to October is what we've got. So I'm actually doing really, really good. Very happy. Getting close to the end. I don't know when anywhere. I think we hear you.
I'm sorry.
Were you? I think you were playing it on a different monitor.
I might have been. Sorry, I turned it off.
I do like
4 monitors running right now. I just tried to see where it was at.
You're good, Barb, Dave. Before we'll get into the Great American Syndicate stuff. But what's going on in your world? How y'all doing?
Good. Jump in, Barb.
We're doing swimmingly. Dave and I are experiencing the opportunities to strengthen our relationship by living together, working together in a couple different business streams. And we got really strong today.
It's a magical experience.
It's a magical experience.
It sounds dirty. What happened? I feel like we need a little bit more details on that.
Oh, let's just say that's a whole other topic. But for those couples who work together while living together, that's a whole different.
Yeah,
it's a whole different skill set to acquire. And we are becoming experts on that particular skill set.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Yeah, no, we do pretty well considering
he's a control freak.
Well, yeah, I am. But we've been doing this. We've been doing this for quite some time, and I think for the most part, we handle it pretty well. Like anyone who's in business together, if you have a partner, whether they're a partner, like significant other partner, or like a partner, you're gonna butt heads. It's gonna happen from time to time, and it's how you navigate it and come through it is what matters. So We always do.
What
We
you're
dealt with that.
describing, the way that you're describing it sounds a little, and forgive the ultra Christian audience out there, sounds a little bit like anal. It sounds like sometimes you like it, sometimes it's painful, sometimes you don't even want to get involved. That's kind of the way you're describing working.
You sound like you're speaking from personal experience there.
Correct,
So
yeah.
we're just going to take your word for it because
Yeah. Pucker up, Buttercup.
pucker.
Oh man, good stuff. Casey,
Casey.
what's cracking?
Not much. Just joining at the right time. It's fantastic.
That's Matt. That's why we encouraged you to, go get your brown liquor.
Right.
Brown liquor. I see what you did there. Everybody's drinking but me and maybe Casey. I don't know. Casey can grab his, Captain Jack Mormon. All right. So that was the quick intros. We're going to be talking about the Great American Summit. With that said, I see John Tisha. I believe it was John Tisha's 40th birthday recently. So happy birthday. Haven't seen you
Happy
like
birthday.
Shelly in LA, which is awesome. One of these days, I'm sure we'll all get to hang out in real life. All right, guys. We're at 30. I don't know why there's only 30 people watching. I know that our algorithm is a little bit down. Facebook's mad at me for talking about black on black crime. Do me a huge favor and please share this episode. Hit the like button. Keep putting comments about where you guys are from, and that'll allow us to trick that algorithm. Let's go ahead and start the show. Again, for this episode, we are going to be having special guest Matt Locke, who we've already introduced for episode 123. We have got Can White People Be Blamed for Tyre Nichols? 5 black police officers killing 1 black man. Project Veritas and the Pfizer drop and egg factories. No better way to talk about, black people dying and black on black crime than with a bunch of white people. Why not? Hey, brown liquors matter. So, real quick, guys, I do want to ask you guys a huge favor. As a lot of you guys have either been a Patreon of this or you have, I see a lot of just random places all over. We've got Callie in there, 40 and awesome. All right. So we don't ask a lot, obviously, and we do have some great Patreons and some supporters. But as you all know, I have talked a lot about the Great American Summit coming up in June in Dallas. Not everybody can travel to that area. To Dallas. We would love to have you, of course, but regardless, for those of you that want to support the community, and if you are already a Patreon of Be the Change, feel free to drop that payment. Stop doing it and join the Great American Syndicate. I've got the link on the bottom, and I haven't made like a full plea like this before, but what we're working on is really, really fun. So we've got for the basic $4.99 membership, we're curating discounts. And if you have a business that you can do online that you want to give something special to patriot-minded individuals that are spending $4.99 a month, essentially to be a part of this community, then I implore you, send us a message and we'll give you, we actually have the links. I'll be putting them up. Actually, Casey's got the links. If you can grab that, that'll be if you would like to have a business included in the syndicate. Great. Second, we also have these great boxes, which we only have, what are we down to, Dave? About 89 of them or 90 left?
Something like that, yeah.
Right around there. So grab that box real quick. And I promise, guys, we'll get right into the news. But I'm going to ask everybody if you can spare $4.99 a month. I feel like Jerry's kids. But for $4.99 a month, you guys are being a part of the community that we are going to put you in touch with other communities, give you discounts. We are going to work our ass off. If you haven't seen what we already do and producing these shows for free and doing what we're doing, and you'll have I believe with the $4.99, you will have a digital ability to watch the summit. We, of course, would rather you be there in person, but we would love to see. We'd love to see you guys. I don't know if it'll be a digital after or live. We got to work on that. But please check this out. So this is, if you want to be a lifetime member, this includes 2 VIP tickets this year, a VIP every year after that. Those VIP tickets are worth over $400. That's what the box is. Great American Syndicate. It comes with tickets. Here, I'm going to put Dave on real quick. He's my Vanna. Comes with the actual tickets, hard copy tickets to the show. You've got hats, you've got t-shirts, you've got books from Martha Krejci, who is the other MC for this event. What other books are in there, Dave? I know there's a whole.
And we either have Man Up by Bedros Keuilian, or we have Martha Krejci's books. I put one of my books in in some boxes, depending on who the box is going to. If I know they have my book or Martha's book, I'll switch it out. But my recent book, I'll put in there. And for somebody today who was actually reading Bedros Keuilian's book as I was packing his box, I put another book in by somebody else who we really love and adore in our syndicate, and that was Steve Sims. So I have some of his books here too. So I'm popping those in as well.
And again,
then you get a custom print from our buddy Tom Barano, who's a speed painting artist. He performed at the Great American Summit last year. He's going to be performing again this year. He's super talented. So this is a commemorative print that you get inside of your box as well. Plus, we got a lot of other unadvertised goodies and merch and stuff all packed inside. So again, that's a lifetime membership. You get 2 tickets this year to the event, 2 VIP tickets to this year's Great American Summit. Plus, as a lifetime member, you get VIP access to all summits moving forward, all Great American Summits moving forward. So it's a great deal. It's value packed, and we'd love for you to check it out. I think the link's scrolling.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is we're also offering some extra things. Again, that's $797, and we're offering things like if you want 15 minutes. So those 100 people, and it's limited to 100, will have 15 minutes of access to either Dave, Barb, or me a month. If you would like to book that time, we've got a Calendly set up. So there's a lot of extra. There's a lot of stuff, and again, you've never heard me pitch this long anytime, and I know Matt's got some people in the chat that are probably here going like, "Wow, that is a long pitch." But again, I know that's
in there, kids. We're getting there,
and it's a lot. I know that $797 is a lot of money, but it does include the tickets. But really, guys, the $499 is what I'm imploring you guys to be a part of. Try it out for a month. Be a part of it. Just kind of support us at that level of $4.99 a month, and then we'll go from there. And
you get 14 days free. So
14 days for free. See?
Hey, I'm going to interrupt and say hi, Jeanette, because she just posted that she got my book last week and she's reading it on vacation. So thank you. That's awesome. I hope you love it. And Nikki, that is Rip on the couch behind us, who is currently humping the other puppy on the floor. Now you can't see that, but that's why he's not
anal. All right, so let's
going on at that house.
Let's start, because Matt, I didn't even brief you fully on the way we do the show now. So obviously there's a bunch of news shows. There's a lot of different people telling what's going on. What we are trying to do, we try to find topics specifically that create conversation. Barb had this idea. It's about truth and fiction. So we're going to start with the egg factory issue, the actual thing of all these egg factories exploding, very much the same as the processing plants during the baby formula shortage, all these different things, or the cows dying last year. So that is the first topic, is to give some specifics of what is really going on. Matt, have you been following this at all?
Oh yeah, I worked in agriculture for many years, grew up on a dairy farm. I'm very into this because these processing plants are going down all over the country. And you've heard about the chicken feed.
Yeah.
From Tractor Supply, where your hens aren't laying eggs. When did eggs, which are the greatest thing for protein and vitamins and minerals, and been eating them for 48 years in my life, and I'm fine, and I've had blood clots, but now we can't eat eggs that are good for you. Isn't it weird to watch the government try to convince you that, one, this vaccine's good for you, which it's not, and number two, everything that used to be good for you is not. And now climate change causes blood clots, and it causes strokes and heart attacks and all this stuff. And nobody really wants to say the real answer. Now, I'm off the subject here, but you should worry. And I'll tell you why.
Okay, I'm curious.
Fertilizer. Most of the world's fertilizer is made in Ukraine. About 60% of fertilizer that farmers need to put into the ground to grow corn and beans and wheat and all kinds of things that you eat on an everyday basis. If they don't put that in the ground, their yields go down. And if their yields go down, the supply goes down, and you don't get as much food, and you pay more for it.
And you know what is also a natural fertilizer? Chicken poop.
Crap. And it smells really bad.
It does.
You could smell chicken manure a few miles down the road.
Yeah.
Casey, do you have a different opinion on why you might, in terms of the fact that specifically, and the Ukraine thing's a big thing, because I think everything that's going on right now is a distraction from what's happening. Woodford Reserve, good choice. Everything is a bigger distraction from Ukraine, the war that's happening over there, how much money we are pumping to that country. That is what I will believe. But when it comes to the fear mongering that we're having with the third largest chicken processing plant, Casey, you have some information in terms of how many different processing plants there are. Is this something specifically to be concerned with, in your opinion?
Yeah, anything at large scale. Like we were all talking about this during COVID. They were all just being lit on fire because of bird flu is what they were worried about, or avian flu, whatever you want to call it. And so it is a supply chain nightmare on this side of the aisle for food. Like it's very similar to what we're doing to bees. Bees is another supply chain nightmare. If you start limiting the bees, you start limiting a lot of other things too. You take out both chickens and bees, all of a sudden your entire food supply is impacted.
Well, you don't have any corn if you don't have bees. You don't have any pollination. You don't get crops if you don't have bees. But you're watching as well the food pyramid. The CDC and the government came out and said that what is it? Lucky Charms.
So that
is better than eggs and bacon.
So there's actually more to even that. So that one I got fact checked is mostly false, even though it is mostly true. So that was a study done by Tufts University with government funding, but you can't say it was government funded because it was only $8.7 million of government funding, and some other funding went to other places. And there was consults done by the WHO. That was one of my. I like some fact checks. That was one of my top 3 fact checks of all time, saying that food pyramid thing was false because it wasn't technically set up as a pyramid, and they used the word pyramid, but that they put Lucky Charms at a much higher rating than ground beef.
Well, and CNN came out last week and said that, you shouldn't own chickens because they'll make you sick. So now you can catch diseases off of farm animals that were in our grandparents' dooryard every day of the week. And twice. I mean, I used to watch my grandfather chop the heads off chickens and pluck them. And that was the protein for the next 3 or 4 days at the Locke house. So weird how everything that used to feed you now is going to kill you.
That sounded like a Joe Biden story.
But it's true.
Corn pop, cut the chickens off the heads. And Barb, Dave, what's your thoughts? Because Casey actually made me think something different, and he still thinks it's I do think there's a big deal in it, but I don't know if it's the explosion of the warehouse. But go ahead, guys.
Well, I think all this stuff is to be concerned about, but I also think there's a lot of fear mongering and gaslighting going on with all this stuff. Like, there's 35,000 food and processing plants across the entire country. Shit happens, right? We saw stuff. When's the last time that you saw some of these plants, like something happened to them? We saw this one with the eggs. I was at the supermarket this morning. There was more eggs to feed like 4 of the towns that I'm in. Like, buy local, buy grass-fed organic, like all this stuff. But I think a lot of it is a little overblown by the conspiracy theorists. I think more of this is being reported now. We had, issues with swine flu and all this other stuff, decades ago. It pops up, but now it's like everything's like instantaneously, like it's thrown down your throat. It's like right in front of you instantaneously on social media. Everyone grabs it and runs with it and says, it's conspiracy this, it's conspiracy that. While some of that might be true, I mean, a lot of us conspiracy theorists have been proven correct like 6 months later, like, over the last few years, it seems like everything that we've talked about has come true. But I think you got to tap it down a little bit, a little pause, and not overreact to some of this stuff.
So I think, Barb, do you want to go?
I just think whatever the truth is behind this, I think, like you said, it's probably somewhere in the middle. It wouldn't surprise me either way, right? It wouldn't surprise me to hear that there is some great master plan going on, because nothing will really surprise me anymore. But I do think, again, it just comes back to whether this is true or not. We got to go back to our communities. Like Dave said, buy the local meat, buy the local eggs, buy the grass fed, pay a couple dollars more. We're paying it anyway. I know that everybody's struggling and all this, but what does your health matter to you? I buy very little produce or very little meat and eggs and stuff from the grocery store. I buy everything, from sources that I know are organic and in this country, because they can stamp a USA meat product on it if it was packaged in this country, but they can ship it from who knows where, package it here and say it's, or it's USA grown beef or whatever. But so that I think is it. I think while we're figuring out what's real and what's not real, in the meantime, use this as an opportunity and reminder to buy locally sourced food. And that'll support the local source farms. And that's who we're going to rely on, because China's buying up all our fucking farmland anyway.
Do you buy from local farms at all right now? Yeah. Do you buy your eggs from local farms?
Sorry, Matt.
Wow. I like hearing the F word come out of a lady's mouth other than my own.
It's not a lady. That's menstrual meat. Barb, so here's my question, and there's a reason I'm going to ask this. Yeah. So some of the stories that I have heard to be true is that free range chickens are having trouble laying eggs this winter. That's the one that rings more, and not that these factories aren't exploding. Yes, 1,000. What is it? 100 meat plants and all this. Could that be nefarious? I could say yes. Is it really that big of an effect on our food chain based on the fact that there's tens of thousands of these? Not as big as we think. I also think it's really sick and sad if they're killing all these animals. That to me is disgusting, but they don't care about human life. Why would they care about chickens? The thing that I find interesting is the feed, and it's the exact same way when we talk about potentially Bill Gates and his cronies considering finding a way to vaccinate through food. I think this is the scary thing for me, but I do think that when it comes to the supply chain with food, they're able to up the prices and they're able to scare people and distract them from other issues. I don't know why our egg prices are so high except for manipulation right now. But what I will say is eggs are back in store. Free range and organic are much harder to find right now. That's the one thing I've noticed. So I'm wondering if your local places.
I just don't see that at all. I don't see
been
it.
able to get it by you?
Yeah.
Really?
In here in Texas. Oh yeah. I mean, it's all over the place in Texas. So a lot of this stuff I think is, Dave talked about conspiracy theories, but they're just spoiler alerts. They all come true. It's not the fact that we were just 6 months ahead of time because we don't have our fingers stuffed in our ears going, no, I don't want to hear it. But farmers down here, I mean, there's stuff everywhere. We buy locally from a farmer out of Bowie for all of our meat. I mean, there's a farmer down in Weatherford for eggs and poultry and all those things. I mean, you can buy it, honestly, you can buy a full chicken for about $7 or $8.
Yeah.
When you go to a local farmer, go get 3 or 4 of them, put them in your freezer. That's what we've always done. You can buy a hog. I mean, you almost always can buy it at a better price and you know where your meat's coming from. Period.
Yeah. The one thing, I mean, we had that story with all the cows that died this summer that I took hook, line, and sinker. And then when I really talked to farmers from other parts of the country, remember the cows that died in like Oklahoma? I don't remember where it was. There was like just lines up of these dead cows that died suddenly from the heat exhaustion or whatever it was. And in all reality, I found out that it was an isolated incident. There was a massive change in temperature. And I kind of reacted on that one. I don't think I went full like, what the hell is going on? I said, this is something to look at. And then I realized that sometimes it is much to do about nothing. Doesn't mean they're not manipulating price. Doesn't mean they might not potentially be sabotaging these places. But we like to talk truth. There's no evidence behind it. There's a lot of bigger things going on and there's no set evidence. So that's why you don't see me sharing a lot of well, look at this.
Yeah. I mean, Anthony, to your point, like we have to pay attention to these things, but it doesn't mean like this is happening or that's happening, right? To Matt's point with Ukraine and the what do you call it? The fertilizer. Like, yes, that's happens, right? I mean, with COVID, we had all these supply chain issues, but no one was really, I wasn't starving. I was able to get food and provide for our family and all this stuff.
Good thing
I think a lot of it is a little out of context. Again, it's a little bit of an echo chamber sometimes, but some of these things, there are valid points to why we should pay attention to it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a nefarious thing, right? And this is the beautiful thing about capitalism, right? Yes, there's fertilizer issues in Ukraine, but guess what? Like, this is how capitalism on a global scale can correct and improve and create new supplies and new chains and things like that. And I think that happens. You see it more on a local level, right? If there's supply chains with mass produced beef and chicken slaughters and all this stuff, well, you can buy locally, and that's capitalism at work. I like to see more people get back to eating, and not only eating and supporting local fruit producers, but just, local shops, manufacturers, the whole nine.
100%. By the way, Matt, somebody asked about TX whiskey. I'm sure you've had it. We're from Texas.
Yeah, I like their whiskey is better than their bourbon. Let's just put it that way. But I'm a Midwestern guy from Indiana, so I like real Kentucky bourbon, and that's not found in Texas. Just so you know.
It's true. Yeah, the weather does suck in Texas. That is a thing. Speaking of capitalism, total side subject, did you hear about Bernie Sanders charging $95 to attend his anti-capitalist book tour?
Well, but it's AOC. I mean, AOC's making money off sweatshirts. They use capitalism when it's convenient for them. Stephen Curry was in the news, or Stephen Curry, the basketball player.
Yeah.
He doesn't want low rent housing in his neighborhood. Now he wants low rent housing in your neighborhood, but not in his neighborhood. Liberals are only liberals and care for people when it doesn't affect them. When capitalism works, Bernie Sanders is out there selling the book, and God bless him.
Yeah. What was the shirt that AOC was selling?
Right?
Remember that?
Eat the rich.
Yeah, tax the rich.
Tax the rich.
And making a
$50
fortune.
sweatshirt.
I mean, she went from a bartender to $35 million in 4 years.
Unreal.
Oh
What
Comical.
was that making me think of? Let's
I
see.
think Casey's talking too much again. I hate it when he does that.
Casey's just there. He's there when he is like the clutch. He's the guy he's a right-hander that pitches to the right-handed batter in the right situation. Matt knows what I'm talking about. That was actually Matt's role when he played baseball.
Yeah, closer. I got to pitch to 2 or 3 batters at any given time. That's how good I wasn't.
All right, let's go ahead and go to the next. I'm saving because my personal favorite is the white people be blamed for Tyre Nichols. You got the Project Veritas in the Pfizer drop with that interview. The question becomes, because there's a lot of people that I've even had sent to me talking about the fact that they thought that one was staged. They thought that one didn't ring true to them. That didn't ring right. They think that it was a setup. Project Veritas for however many years, a decade now, has been true. Like, why would they start now is my only question. Does anybody out of this panel think that could have been a actor?
No. Well, you saw Pfizer scrubbed him, right? Pfizer scrubbed him from their database.
Yeah.
He literally worked for them. And now why would Pfizer scrub him? That's the question that I would ask. Now look, the guy was on a date, I guess, but wouldn't you ask at this point in life, when someone sits down and they're kind of pumping you for information and you don't know them, wouldn't you be just a little bit skeptical that they might have a nefarious reason for talking to you?
Yeah, the bounds on a date off of Grindr in terms of how much information you're willing to give for a little bit of gherkin. But we also take it, and I think that people look at this going like, how did this guy not know at this point? You're realizing that we're taking a long date out of context with, taking the project. And I've had a guy that worked for Project Veritas as a guest where he's, covered before. And he taught, like, they are trained. They are gifted at getting out information and making people feel safe to tell them the crazy ass shit that's about to come out of their mouth.
Well, but Anthony, not to interrupt you,
yeah, you're good.
But I have this conversation all the time. If you're a conservative, you have to watch what you say. Seriously, you have to watch what you say for business, for your livelihood, for anything like that. Democrats have never had to worry about what they say. Yeah. They don't have to say, I have this conversation with my wife, she's in HR. I'm like, would you not hire someone if they were a Democrat? Well, of course not. But people who are Republicans don't get hired all the time because of their views. Here's a guy who is obviously liberal. He obviously has no fear of repercussion or any, and they've lived in this world where there's been no consequence to their actions. So I believe it's true. He freaked out, dude. And I think you would, because he knew. As soon as he knew he was on camera, he knew what Pfizer was going to do. He knew exactly what was going to happen. I believe it was all real.
I'm going to agree. Anybody with a different or thought on that one?
No,
I just want to know, how does Project Veritas get all of these dates?
Man, they're ballers, right?
Somehow.
It's a trap, but the gay community is known for a lot of dating, by what I hear.
If I was and I've said this on a short or on a reel, like, if I was a CEO of any company that could, like, any tech company or any pharmaceutical company, I would put a ban on any of my gay employees on going on dates, like blind dates. They just can't. Call me a bigot. Granted, I would never work for these companies, but I'm telling you, this is where all of the leaks have come from, except for like 2 heterosexual dates in the last 5 years, has all been gay dates out of these companies from Project Veritas. Like, I get, like, loose lips. Literally and figuratively,
Well,
Well,
then today
might
you
be
saw
good.
the internal memo, right, from YouTube as well about how they were going to handle that video and how they were going to suppress it, which they did. They basically removed it. So that's
Twitter's
also
the only place.
yeah,
But what's crazy is, have you seen how many views it's gotten on Twitter?
yeah, it's nuts.
Like 26 million views on Twitter. Which,
Yeah.
so, people they're craving information. I mean, I think the average ordinary American is tired of watching mainstream media tell them things that are not, right? So when information comes out, now all the citizen journalists are beating the mainstream media. The mainstream media will not touch this with a 10-foot pole. Pardon the pun.
Well, I have a question. So, like today, also Joe Biden said that they're going to end the emergency use authorizations, right? Like basically, COVID, the pandemic is officially over, like in a couple weeks, or not a couple weeks, May, right? I think it
May
was
11th.
11th.
May 11th. So come May 11th, right? Does that mean because there's no emergency use authorization anymore, that at that point, Pfizer and Moderna will have to put these things on their commercials that state this side effect or that side effect? I mean, isn't the only reason why they don't have to put it on now is because it's emergency use?
Yes.
Correct.
Right.
That's
Did you
exactly
see the MSNBC anchor come back from her health leave?
Yes, she had a nasty cold, which gave her myocarditis and pericarditis, right?
Oh,
And
Matt,
then
you
the-
haven't seen this, have you?
No, I did see it, but I see this all the time. I'm in a Truth Brigade group here, and I see we've been watching the Died Suddenly and tracking all of these stories, and every single day it's 5, 6, 7 people dying, 25, 30. That young lady, what do you think? Early 30s, maybe late 20s?
The anchor, she's in her
Yeah.
30s probably,
30s.
yeah, but still. Then you've got swimmer, you got all these different things, but
Yeah.
it's like her, like the whole thing. I'm watching it because I saw it. I'm like, this is amazing. She's finally coming out and being like, I got pericarditis. I had this. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. I'm completely healthy. I run 7 miles a day. Bam, bam. I'm like, MSNBC, what? The doctor told me I had a common cold and it led to this infection. I'm like, is that possible? Absolutely. But this is also the same doctor that I think misdiagnosed. What did they misdiagnose her? She needs a new doctor across the board anyways.
Well, okay, so Anthony, one, she got diagnosed with a cold from her doctor and said that's how she got it, right? But so what's more likely, that she got it from a cold, or the fact that she works at a news station where they probably have a vaccination mandate, right? And that she's an employee of that station, like our friend Bobby said. So they told her, like, you can't say that it's this because Pfizer's covering us on this with these commercials and paying us for this advertising. Like, that's how all this shit goes down.
Well, mainstream media is controlled, you're right, by the donors. I mean, Pfizer's giving them big money. The NFL, I mean, the whole Damar Hamlin deal, a 24-year-old has a heart attack on Monday Night Football. And the thing I find interesting about all of this is I don't care if you were vaccinated or not. It's your body. If you want to put the vaccine in you, that's up to you. I didn't want to do it kind of stuff. But back then, you couldn't go to a restaurant. You couldn't be out in public. You were shamed. It was going to be the winner of death for the unvaccinated. It was going to be all this stuff. And now you're seeing all of these things starting to crop up, all these heart attacks, strokes, deaths, unexplained. And I was like, well, you can't say anything. Well, but you guys said everything about the unvaccinated, and who are not having heart attacks? Unvaccinated people. I mean, it's really odd, but no one will ask that question because, but they're scared to death. They're scared to death because it's big dollars. I mean, look at CNN. I saw a story today. CNN is down to like 450,000 viewers a day, which is just garbage in a nightly setting when Fox News is getting 2.5 million kind of stuff. But they're not allowed to say anything, and they'll keep getting money even though they're terrible because of Pfizer and all these people who control the media as it is. That's how they stay. That's how they stay on the air.
So for the people wondering who the anchor is, it is Yasmin Vossian. Not a big name on there. I've never heard of her. Granted, I'll watch CNN just for content, but I try to avoid MSNBC because it's almost too hateful. All right. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead and whoever typed that. That's a big one. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up. We're actually doing a little bit better than we were earlier, so that's good. What else do we got? We got on that one. And the other thing, sorry, this is the part we forgot. And what we're going to talk about Tyre Nichols next is they dropped the Veritas response, or I'm sorry, they dropped the Pfizer response to this at 8 p.m. on Friday night, knowing that at 7 p.m. was when they were showing the footage. Allegedly knowing that at 7 p.m. they were dropping the information and the video on the Tyre Nichols case. Very convenient. And if you read the whole presser, it talks one paragraph about the Project Veritas and then completely gaslights it into talking about Paxlovid and it being essentially the reason they do any kind of gain of function. It's not gain of function. They're actually just trying to be one step ahead for the treatment options. That's how they managed to answer that. They never once said in that he did not work for them, because they can't. That would be blatantly lying.
Right.
So that's why I can't. If he did not work for them and they could prove it and people think it's conspiracy, that would be done. That would be over with at that point. So.
Well, how do you feel though? How do you feel about this gain of function that we were told that wasn't happening? We all know it is.
Yeah, it's even worse than gain of function. Actually, they're doing, if what that guy said is true, technically he's right. It's not gain of function. They're literally they're doing way more than that. They're manipulating the virus to make money. That was strictly fiscal. So that's even different. Gain of function is there is a good side to gain of function if you look at it from a scientific perspective, if it's an enclosed lab. But when the company that makes the money off of the medicine is literally doing this to control where things are going, that's a next level gain of function. That's gaining dollars for the purposes of potentially hurting people. And he laughed at the different things, the Omicrons. It sounded so disgusting hearing this guy talk about a lack of give a shit for people's lives. Sick.
Maybe all of Pfizer's research is happening in all the biolabs in Ukraine.
Well, the other big story that just broke. Yeah. All the biolabs that we weren't in, that we're in.
So wait, what? I missed this one. Go ahead.
Came out today on Twitter, 27 biolabs in Ukraine that America has, our government has their hands in. You know, all those things that the Pentagon can't find, all of the audits we can't pass. There's a reason we can't pass audits, because they don't want you to know what we're doing. I mean, how in the world does the Pentagon fail an audit 6 years in a row?
By doing that.
What they're not telling you. They know where things are at. They know where these billions of dollars are at. And when Victoria Nuland brought it up in that whole deal in front of Congress about a year ago, she gave away the goods. Hey, look, they're over there. We're in them, and we've got them, and here we are. And now maybe Putin wasn't as bad as everybody thinks he might have been.
Casey, were you going to say something?
He's bad. It's
It's not as bad. He's
bad in a different way. Yeah, I wouldn't call him good,
but he's
I
not.
wouldn't call him good either. But I've never thought he was as bad as. I mean, they have to portray him as the worst individual on the planet. I don't think Zelensky is that. I'll be honest. I don't think he's that far behind. I don't think what's going on. I mean, when one of your major battalions still full of Nazis,
that dude is shifty as hell. And he just coming over here for his photo ops with his wife while his country is burning, and he's over here like
and now
what did he do? Like photo shoots and all this shit. While
huge shopping sprees.
Ridiculous.
Like shopping sprees.
Let's not forget this man is an actor.
Great leader.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
leader.
He has 130 billion in his pocket.
Oh my God.
And I heard tonight he's going to get another 2.2 billion headed his way in the with long range missiles this time. So that's great.
And then we've seen the
10% to the big guy.
And we've seen the clip with Biden where a year ago he said, if I were to give tanks, that would be the beginning of World War III. And what is he doing right now? He is literally talking about giving tanks. Not talking about, we are giving tanks. We are involved in a war that was almost actually over multiple times. And we have now reinserted ourselves to get it. And the only way to do that is to paint Putin already. I will say Putin's a piece of shit, but to paint him as the Antichrist is the only way for them to be able to qualify how much money we are spending in Ukraine. Actually, before we go into our final topic of the night, Casey shared with Dave and I, when was that clip? Go ahead and explain the Maxine Waters clip.
That was today. That was literally like an hour prior to me sending it to you.
What happened?
We'll share it, Matt, later. It's an 8-minute clip of Maxine Waters. Who is the guy questioning her?
I don't know. I was going to look into it, but work ended up becoming a disaster. But he was questioning her. They were supposed to be talking about like the government denouncing they were denouncing communism is what majority of the conversation was, but Maxine Waters refused.
The conversation started, Casey, regarding whether Medicare, Medicaid passing a bill, like talking about whether or not they were going to be. It started out with the socialist program, quote unquote, socialist program.
Okay.
They were trying to find a way to do funding properly. That's how the conversation started. And the person that was in charge of the conversation was the Republican representative talking about that. Go ahead, Casey, so you can say more. You watched it before I did.
No, you're fine. It's just crazy. Like I couldn't connect on how you were saying with the communism conversation, but that makes sense. And so Maxine Waters was being drilled by this guy, like, hey, why won't you denounce like Kim Jong-un, China, Russia, like what these countries are doing? Well, Trump loves them. Like so complete TDS all over that clip. Like she has TDS like no other. Every time you throw her a question about, well, he killed millions of people. This guy did. Why won't you denounce that? Well, Trump loved him.
He goes, she would say, I don't do yes or no questions. It's childish. And then she said, and he asked about, the thing is, he didn't push her on one thing. He was bringing up Mao Zedong and he was bringing up Stalin, which are all well before Trump. But she managed to turn everything into a Trump question. She goes, will you denounce Donald Trump? What she should have said, so you are putting Donald Trump in the same category as Mao Zedong, and talking about all the atrocities, Venezuela, all these. She would not answer the question, not once. It was the weirdest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. That's one of the top 5 Trump derangement videos, and I'll
But Anthony, isn't that the typical liberal response from any argument or question or debate that is raised? The counter to it is always, well, Trump did this. Well, when Trump was president, like there's nothing of substance behind any of their arguments. It's always Trump.
This was on steroids, though. This was on steroids.
They're all there, but they're all there, Anthony. He's right.
Yeah,
I mean, you're absolutely 100% correct. This whole document deal. You see, but it was Trump who had all the documents. Well, Trump's president. He can declassify them. Well, but Trump had them, and Biden, he was working with, and we just found out today that he got raided in November, and we didn't know about it until after the election. If you have a D behind your name, you are coddled. They bring out the kid gloves, and they don't have to answer any questions of any substance. And then it was kind of interesting. It really breaks my heart that Mike Pence comes out and he's got classified documents. You know that was arranged. Mike Pence is from Indiana, as a former governor. I've interviewed the guy 2 or 3 times on radio. I mean, upstanding Christian guy. And I don't know what went wrong with him. I don't know where it went off the tracks. But now you've got Pence running interference on classified documents. If you have classified documents, it's as bad for all 3. The only thing is Donald Trump is president at the time. So that's the thing. People don't understand the Constitution. Donald Trump can declassify anything. It doesn't matter if the deep state or the FBI or the State Department or any other part of the government doesn't want it done. Trump is the head of the executive branch. He can declassify information now, period. So why aren't we looking into Joe Biden and Hunter living in that house and the Corvette in the garage and all the things? I mean, I just think the left wants Biden gone at some point. He's been.
I think it's perfect timing for
him.
Yeah,
he's been a useful idiot.
Speaking of perfect timing, time to talk about my favorite subject. Apparently, with all white people on the screen, we can be blamed for Tyre Nichols' murder. So, first off, I want to get some of the questions out of the way that I know most of our followers probably don't have, but on the Truth Will Set You Free page, they do. A lot of the haters, I have more trolls than I've ever had. But a lot of them will talk about, why don't you talk about the white cop? The white cop was fired. Why was he only fired? Well, first off, I have to be clear of what currently is known about that police officer. He was the one that deployed his taser. He did not pull the guy out. He did not pull Tyre out of his car. He was only part of the initial arrest. We would be in a very different place right now if the taser would have worked in the very beginning. And I honestly won't even get into the comply or not, because it started out at such an escalated level. I think the police work was very bad. These two of the 5 police officers were hired based on very low requirements, and they were not fully trained as well. And they also, some of them had backgrounds of beating people when they were prison guards. There was major issues there. But from the perspective of the white police officer that has been let go of duty, which I don't know why so far, because deploying a taser is allowed if you are a police officer in that situation. That is called, for the most part, non-lethal force. So, and he was not there for the beating to all accounts. So that is the one thing I wanted from a news perspective. Now, from the other perspective of how do any of you guys feel as though that it is possible to, and you've all seen it, I'm sure, is it possible to blame white people or white supremacy when 5 black officers kill 1 black man?
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what color they are. A man lost his life because 5 individuals who standards were lowered because of all of this garbage that we're dealing with in America today. I mean, we don't hire people based on talent or education. We are hiring people. Look at the vice president of the United States. We hired her because she had a vagina. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's her only skill set that she's the VP for. And she's dumber than a brick and worse than Joe Biden.
Yeah.
But it's not about color of skin here.
Casey.
It's about political party. I mean, look at Memphis. Democrat mayor, Democrat AG, Democrat police chief. I mean, Democrats kill people. It's just that simple. It isn't color of skin. It's policy. All right, I'm off my soapbox.
I mean, that's valid. Anybody? Dave, Barb, Dave, you're unmuted. Go for it.
I think it is possible to say so if you are a crazy freaking liberal. And I think that these people, and I know there's a difference between people who are on the left and Democrats versus these liberals. I'm not putting all Democrats in the same pile of crap that I'm putting all these crazy liberal people in, right? But there's a difference between having Democrat views and being a lunatic like these people are. And I think that if you believe that this was a white supremacist act, or you buy into the fact that this was racist, I think you're not intelligent, or you are somebody who is playing on the unintelligent people to further your purpose. I'm just waiting to see Pelosi give a folded flag to this guy's mother again, because, I think she's a little late on that, right? Like this is the extent that to which they go to, right? This is, if she was still, I can almost guarantee if she still had that gavel, I think she would be there on her knee giving this mother a folded flag. And I don't know anything about this family. I don't know anything about the mother. I cannot imagine the pain a mother would feel, setting all circumstances aside. So this is in no way disparaging, this guy's mother. I actually feel heartbreak for somebody who loses a child, right? But I feel like Pelosi would literally be taking advantage of this and handing this guy a folded flag. And that is the extent to which that party and these liberals will go to exploit sacred American values and basic human decency for their own ends, to which I don't know what they are, but I know that they're manipulating the racist card to reach them. And I think that anybody who talks about this being a white supremacist or a racist act really just needs to shut the hell up and move on to the next thing, because I'm fucking sick of it.
That's what
I feel like.
They're sending the vice president to his funeral.
They're what?
The vice president, Kamala's going to his funeral.
There you go.
They just
right?
And the thing
there
is,
you go.
They didn't go to David Dorn's funeral. Remember David Dorn, St. Louis?
I didn't have a vice president at my husband's funeral when I was handed a folded flag for him, so
it's all based on skin color and again,
right.
I will say I've done a lot of research on this guy, Tyre, and he has no previous record. He was well loved. I think this one's I think this is the outlier of a truly tragic situation. And when I watched it way too many times over and over again, there's 2 rumors out there right now. One, that he was pulled over because he was swerving into the cops. And I'm picturing a couple possibilities. One of them is was he doing it on purpose? Everything based in his past would not say that. Was he texting maybe and swerved into a cop like an idiot? That would be my most logical. Again, this is not factual. This is a logical guess. Now, there's a second option that people talk about, that somehow he was potentially dating and this is a strictly rumor, but it has been put in multiple places, so it's worth noting, which would be the best explanation for the aggression to which they pulled him out of the car. There's a rumor that he was dating one of the police officer's exes. Again, no confirmation of that. So there's really three possibilities here in this thing. But in no way, shape, or form should they have pulled him out like that. Should he have complied? I would always say yes, but at the same time, they were immediately dangerous. And if
It was like a mob. It was like a mob, like the mob mentality. It was disgusting and brutal, and nothing. There's no condoning that behavior. There's no saying that was okay. It's just the fact that it's being turned. It's being this tragedy, and I will call it a tragedy because this guy was beat to death for doing nothing really by law enforcement officers who were supposed to trust. Like outrageous, unconscionable, all those things, criminal behavior. The fact that it's being exploited with a racist card is also more unconscionable behavior. And I think it's just criminal. I think it's
all these cases,
ridiculous.
George Floyd, it's like less than
this
one.
Is not George Floyd.
No, I'm just saying it. All of them, though, is less than 1% of the police interaction that happens throughout this country. Right. And so what happened here is an absolute tragedy, but it's easy to play the race card when you have no solutions. Right. It's easy to throw it out there. What we should be grateful for is that we're not seeing that this kind of thing is happening constantly 24/7. And you have to think that it might be that way, that we would see it more because it is the Democrats who had the defund the rhetoric for 3 years. And coincided with that is the same reason we're seeing crime skyrocketing through every major city across this country. Cities, by the way, which are controlled and ran by Democrats for decades, right? So the fact that there's less police officers, these police officers are underpaid, they're overworked, they're undertrained, they're policing in neighborhoods and communities where it's dangerous, they feel threatened, and I'm not condoning their behavior, but when you're in an environment like that, there is a certain point that people crack and they have enough. And when that button is pushed, you overreact and you do shit like this that's wrong, right? But that's because there's not enough police. It's because of the rhetoric, because of the defunding. It's because of people retiring on the police force. Like what they did with that rhetoric after George Floyd literally decimated this entire country and created the crime surge that we see now.
100%. Now that Scorpion unit, and there's some major questions. One, I have not seen the video of him driving erratically. You would think that would have been put out already, and it has not, which is also weird. The Scorpion unit was supposed to be for high crime areas. This was actually a good neighborhood, a relatively good neighborhood. He was actually running home. He was within a block of his home. If you look at those homes, this is a middle-class place. This is not where the Scorpion unit is supposed to be busting people. So there's a lot of weird things in that area. And two, I think Barb said, this is no George Floyd. I actually think this is far worse than George Floyd.
Right. That's exactly, yes.
Yeah, this is an egregious murder. George Floyd, although tragic, although you don't like watching the knee on the back, and I won't say neck because that was so brief, but he also had enough barbiturates and drugs in his system that he was already putting himself at risk, and he flat out did not comply. He asked to get out. Very sad situation. I'll leave that at that. But this to me is truly what appears to be an absolute beatdown. We have not seen.
But Anthony, to my point though, it's still rare. It's still rare. Out of all the police
encounters
that happen on a daily basis, these things are rare.
No, I could not agree more. And that's a message that is probably the most important, because if we continue to train young black men and people go, why don't you talk about white on white crime? Whatever. Because nobody cares when a white person died. Tony Timpa, perfect example, just died in the same way of George Floyd. Nobody gave a baker's F. There's a Latino guy, died in March of 2020, ended up exact same thing, if not worse than George Floyd. Nobody gave a shit. Black guy, everybody gives a shit. But when you look at exactly this kind of messaging, you are looking at you're telling a bunch of young black men that they are at risk. So if we don't give the message that you just said, that this is one out of millions that this happens, that causes them to not comply, fight back even more than they would have in the first place. So I completely understand. If the true narrative that needs to be passed along is the fact that in the complete rarity of this instance, plain and simple.
Would you want to be a police officer today?
Absolutely not.
I mean, when I grew up, 48 years old, when I grew up, you wanted to be a fireman or a police officer. You dreamed of that. You idolized people like that. I mean, they were the good guys, right? They were the guys that you knew growing up in your community. I mean, I got in trouble a lot as a kid. I was a handful. And I can tell you, the sheriff showed up at my mom and dad's house probably a handful of times over my teenage years. And, you know, they handle things within your family unit, right? And I'm going to tell you, when my dad took his belt off, it was never good.
Yeah.
I mean, I would rather the police officer did something to me than my father, right?
Right.
But let's go back to the family unit, because we're looking at the Black community. How many of those police officers who beat that poor man to death, how many grew up in single parent households? How many grew up with a family structure around them? How many grew up with a father, a figure that could guide them? I mean, Dave, you talked about environment. We're all, you know, we're all parts of our environment, right? We're parts of how we were raised, who we were around, you know, what we were told, loyalty, honesty, all of that kind of thing. I think if you go back and look at these gentlemen who were and I probably shouldn't call them gentlemen, probably animals is probably a better word, how were they raised? In what environment were they raised? Were they always in Memphis, which we know is a horrible liberal city? I like that better than Democrat, a liberal run city where, you know, we're lowering our standards for these police officers to become official. We're lowering our standards, but we're literally lowering every standard of everything in America right now, right? I mean, the test scores, military, all the things that you see, everything's getting lowered. So we should expect less because we're asking less, right?
But I want to counter you, Matt, because I get the single parent household argument, but I think we've started to lean on that too heavy.
Thank you.
Fact is, there's a lot of people that get, like,
Yes.
Again, I'm a single parent household. I am white. I don't know if anybody can tell, but I am. But I don't think it is a color issue. I think it is a narrative, and it is a messaging by the media. So yes, it would help to have a father in the home. Problem is, it's not even a father in the home. It's a community. And that community in the more socioeconomically poor areas that also happen to be Black, those communities have very little family organization or male role models across the board.
Sure.
So it's a much bigger issue, because I think single parent households, yeah, that's one thing that can be discussed. But I think we've now used that to our detriment, ignoring the bigger problem, which is we tell people that, hey, if you're a Black person, our media does, if you're a Black person and you get pulled over, there's a chance that you're going to get killed or hurt by the police, which is so, I mean, yes, I can win the lottery too. I mean, I can win $10,000 in a lottery, 1 out of a million as well. That's my personal opinion on that.
What do you think, Casey?
I just want it all to stop. But when it comes to this whole thing, like this, this whole situation, we talked about, Russo and I talked about it, right? The night that it happened, it was released. It was not a good situation. There's not enough information to make a judgment call in a lot of the scenarios, because we don't even know the true reason why the aggression of right off the start to rip him out of the vehicle. You don't know any of that. There was none of that released. And so for everybody to be up in arms, the only thing that I'm thankful for is that night there was very little problems. There was just peaceful protesting, and people were okay. That was probably the best case scenario for that night.
Yeah, and honestly, the protests were not that bad. So I'll give it. I think that does. I mean, if you want, I mean, I was a little upset. I'm like, hey, they've already been charged with second-degree murder. They were let out on bail, but I don't think they're a flight risk, from what I understand. I don't know. I know policy, and typically police officers are always going to be let out in that situation. But I think the protests, now that I'm looking at it, they were warranted, and I think that a lot of that was good. I again am a believer. I now know the reasons that they say why we don't come out with that kind of footage on a Monday morning, because they don't want to they don't want issues to happen at schools, and I guess it's a risk for kids. I mean, I'm going to respectfully disagree with the logic on that one, but if that's their policy, that's their policy. That's why they did it on a Friday night, which to me is the dumbest thing they could do. But
what scares me
I have
is
a theory on that.
Go ahead. Let me have Casey go, and then go ahead, Dave. Go ahead, Casey.
So here's the thing. I was talking to the group of guys I was with that night, because we were planning for the teacher issue we have here in Utah, right? All of a sudden again. But the reason why some of these get done on Friday nights is there is less people out in public, and in the next morning, there is less people trying to go to work. So it is actually less activity. And so it is a safer thing for citizens for them to release it on a Friday night.
Yeah. Dave, what were you saying?
Oh, no, I was just saying, my biggest concern is that, when these things happen, is all of a sudden they start talking about reform, right? Police reform. And my concern is that with the way the Democrats would like things to go, or not even, again, to Matt's point, not Democrats, the way the liberals and the left would like things to go is the reforms will make things worse, right? So for me, my reforms would be, I want more police. I want more funding. I want better training. I want better hiring standards. I want more accountability. I want inner cities like Chicago, where Mayor Lightfoot has seen almost 3,000 murders on her watch. I want a whole shitload of police to go in those cities and clean them up so families and people can live normal, productive lives and get ahead in this country, because that's what this country is about. It's about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They need an opportunity to rise up the ladder, and they haven't been given that opportunity for decades. And until something changes like that, until these cities are cleaned up and these people are given a chance to thrive, and not only thrive but survive, we're going to see more of the same.
Yeah, I think what I think is crazy is I did a 1 minute short video on this talking about why don't we talk a little bit about the black on black crime? How are people actually still blaming this on white people, et cetera? This is the first time that I had a video. I've had it removed from TikToks, and I stopped doing TikTok, but from TikTok, and I've had some stuff fact checked on Facebook. This is the first time I had a video removed from Instagram, completely demonetized, because I talked about black on black crime in a 1 minute video. Unreal. And they said their response, I actually went to the full review board and I filled out all the paperwork, but they were saying that my message, and you can actually still see it on the Facebook page, and we're done here, right? And we're on our last 2 minutes here. If you go and you look at the Truth Will Set You Free Facebook page, it's only a video or two, couple videos down, and it is me literally doing a 1 minute video. That was the video that they deemed could potentially incite violence, when I just said, how are we blaming this on white people?
Yeah, it would have been great if Cash could have been on this panel.
There you go. And by what Dave said, I mean, you look at states like Michigan, Illinois, you had candidates for the Republican Party running on that very thing. We want more police. We want more training. We want more protection. But yet it didn't pass. Why? Why didn't those candidates win?
Yeah, I mean, good question.
Because it's not feasible for people with actually using their common sense. That's why.
It's true.
All right, guys, let's wrap her up. Final words. Let's start with Casey, the wordy one.
Oh, the wordy one. Yeah. Not much for me. Just pay attention to your local governments. Like Utah's in kind of a crazy place right now with the legislative session. And we're coming on the final weeks where we're seeing bills trying to be sneaked in for schools and teaching and all of that fun stuff. So keep an eye out on what's going on in your community for sure.
Word up. Let's go with Matt. Go for it.
Well, Casey's right. Locally, I mean, you have to make a difference locally. We're watching our federal politicians really not do anything. I mean, Ronna McDaniel, GOP chair. I mean, nobody seems to be listening to the grassroots. You're gonna have to grow this at the grassroots. You're gonna have to take it over at the school boards, the city council, the dog catcher. You're gonna have to reform it there if you want reforms, and then move it north. I mean, that's the only way you're going to get a federal government that's going to do anything for the people. I mean, that's just the case.
Stuff. Dave and Barb. Oh, actually, wait, guys. Matt, where can everybody find you, and what do you got coming up? Just to remind everybody, we made it this far with you.
Well, I'm on Twitter. I've decided I don't like Facebook, so we're here on Facebook, but Facebook's never been a friend of mine. On Twitter, at Matt Locke Radio. I even got a blue check mark. I paid for it. So now I'm somebody. So go follow it's so dumb, but go follow me over at Matt Locke Radio. Podcast coming back, trying to, as you know, it when you have plans, the best laid plans always take longer than you believe. I've got some things in the works. I got some lunches. I'm doing some things, trying to get all of the pieces put together before we head forward. But hopefully the Voice of the Working Man podcast will be back on the air here in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Shaking hands, giving hand jobs to older men. All right.
Hey, I didn't think to grease the wheels, buddy.
Barb and Dave.
I don't know. I think this has been fun tonight, Matt. You had good energy to this. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you on our show if that window has opened back up for you at this point. But yeah, I think this was it was a good conversation. I think it just pissed me off again. Like, this is one reason I don't come on and do this, because I end the night angry at all the freaking idiocy that is happening. But right, seriously, Matt. I don't think that means we should give up, though. I think that means we need to just double down and carry on. So thanks for letting us hang out and get pissed off together, I guess.
Facts. Dave.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. I'll leave it right there. Just want to encourage everyone to check out our community. Go to the website, greatamericansyndicate.com, see how you can get involved. Again, we're all about self, family, community, and country. We're about all the things that we talked about on this show in terms of our values and our beliefs. And if you're one of those people, if you're like us, you believe the same things that we believe in, and then, you're perfect for our community, and we would love to see you inside.
And this week we'll be introducing some links for brand ambassadors, which we're finalizing with Dave and Casey. For if you want to be an ambassador for this and just share either the event or even the syndicate, we're going to put all that together. We also are an affiliate for Public Square, seeing how far that goes. But regardless, if you've got a business, hit me up. We're going to shoot it at you. And lastly, again, for everybody that are left on here, please, when we're done here, just go to greatamericansyndicate.com. It's $4.99 a month. It's 15 days for free. Just look it up. And again, if you are a Patreon of what is it? Be the Change. Whatever you're spending, drop it. It's fine. Come over to Great American Syndicate. Do that, because I would rather everybody be in the same place with Dave, Barb, and I, so that we can. Because the one thing I always feel like I didn't give enough. And if we can work as a team to make it worthwhile, start at the $4.99 a month, and then hopefully you become VIP members or whatever you want to do. But it would be much appreciated. Just check it out, greatamericansyndicate.com. I always forget to mention, if you like the gear, go to wakenotwokestore.com. And you do get I think you get a hat if you end up becoming a life member. I know that's worth $797. But anyways, go to wakenotwokestore.com, awake for 15% off. And the one that I always remind you guys, because you guys, oddly, buy a lot. So thank you. TheDrArtisShow.com. Use BFD at checkout for 10% off. That's where you get all the supplements from Dr. Artis. He's got a lot of stuff for the Doc's viral defense, some stuff for COVID, some stuff for post-COVID, some stuff if you got the jib jab. Just go to his website. Check that out. Use BFD at checkout. Helps us out, helps you out. And that is the show. So remember, the truth, ladies and gentlemen, will always set you free. Matt, thanks for being here. Take it easy, everybody. Have a great evening.